Hi everyone, welcome to today's lockdown lesson. I'm lucky enough to be joined by Rhonda Morris today. Hi Rhonda.
Hello.
And Rhonda is a successful professional copywriter. And Rhonda, you're based locally, aren't you? Bishopbriggs, is it?
Yes, Bishopbriggs.
And what sort of activities do you undertake as a copywriter for people that maybe don't know exactly what your job role is?
Okay, well, I help anyone with their written communication. I can either write it from scratch, or I can do take what you've written and simplify it, make sure that it's easy to understand. Or I do websites. I write content for people's websites, the words for their website. I refresh websites if they have content that's maybe out of date, make sure that everything's relevant, easy to understand, and just has a bit of a fresher feel for it. I do newsletters. I pretty much any type of written communication. I do a lot of proofreading for clients as well. So that's just looking at what they've written and making sure, again, that it's easy to understand and grammatically correct and contextually correct and all the spelling is right. And yeah.
And who is your kind of normal client? Is it always people who are time poor, or is it people who realise that there is a bit of a skill involved in what how you're getting your message to your customers?
A little bit of both. There's some people that are highly skilled at writing, but they are all over the place, and maybe some of their sentences run on and on and on and on, and they're too close to it sometimes, and they want to write too much stuff, and people's attention span is quite small, so they just want to know, straightforward stuff. Especially like for a website, if they just want to know where you are, do you do what they want, and how do they get in touch with you? So, yes.
Yeah, I do find that my sentences, just with my background, they do tend to run on and on and on forever. I use loads and loads of commas, and the sentences just go on forever. And recently I've been trying very hard to write as I speak, because that's really the modern way, isn't it? When you look at social and all of that stuff, everything's written, with a full stop and an and things like that. And it's quite alien to me. I do have to really think about it. It's quite a weird thing to get your head around.
It certainly is. And I have a perfect app for you that I'll talk to you about later when we go through some things later on in this interview.
So you're going to give us your 4 top tips for checking your work. And yeah, I think this is probably quite appropriate just now, given the amount of parents who are working from home and they want to produce work that's at a similar standard to what they would normally produce, but they've got children in the house. And it's probably, I know myself, it's really hard. So working for an employer, it must be very difficult as well. So I think it's probably quite well timed, Rhonda. I hope it's well received. But let's go ahead with tip 1.
Tip 1 is to read over what you've written. Read it forwards, and the hard part is to read it backwards. Basically, when you read it forwards, you're basically skimming over the words, because you know what you wrote, what you wanted to write, what you intended. And when you have to read it backwards, it makes you focus word by word, because your brain knows what you wanted to write down on that paper, or what it has written or typed. But when you have to look for it, when you're focused, you might pick out something that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's a really good one. Reading backwards, I would never have thought of that. You read things and you've written it, and sometimes if you leave it a couple of days and go back, you might pick up on it. But certainly if you've just written it, you're never going to notice, never going to catch everything.
Nope. The second tip is an obvious one. Check your spelling, punctuation, grammar, and readability. For that, I just use the spell checking software, proofreading software in Microsoft Word. Okay. And then once I've checked it with Word, I will go through and check it with another bit of software called Grammarly. And you can get a free version online. I used the free version for quite a long time before I decided that that was something that I'm going to use on a regular basis, and I found it useful and helpful. So I did purchase the premium software for that, but it automatically checks and detects, just like Microsoft Word, but just an added fallback. As you know, a lot of words are spelt correctly, like there, and there, and so, and right, and right, and
yeah,
I can go on and on and on, but not always in the right context. So you have to check it with a couple of forms of software and read it yourself and read it backwards as well. And tip number 3 is to check the style of your writing. That's what I was talking about earlier, about these sentences that go on and on and on. You need to make sure that your writing is bold and clear, easy to understand. Depending on your audience as well, you need to make sure that they can understand, and there's not going to be anything misunderstood that's going to cost you. And you want to make sure that it's not too complicated and too hard for people to read. So as I mentioned earlier, there's a software that I use, and I used the free version for quite a long time before deciding that this is something that I'm going to use on a regular basis, and I purchased the premium software for it. But it's called Hemingway, so Hemingway. So it highlights adverbs, any words that are written in the passive voice. It highlights phrases that might have a simpler alternative, either one word or several words, sentences that are hard to read, and then those sentences that are very hard to read. And each highlight comes in a different color. And what I love about that is, as I go through and edit the document you have to copy everything from Microsoft Word, paste it into Hemingway, and then the highlights automatically appear. And then as you fix the highlights, the highlights disappear. And that's what I like, when all the colors disappear and it's nice and clean and crisp. And then I copy and paste it back into Word and just quickly run the Word spell check again. The 4th tip, and this is my favorite part, and I usually do this at the very end of every project, whether it's a 1-page project or 50-page project, and it has saved me so many times. I really, really love it, and it's called Read Aloud, and you'll find it Microsoft Word on the review tab. It's just a couple of buttons over from the spell checking button, but when you listen to the words as they're read, you pick up on things that you wouldn't have seen because your brain already knows what you wanted to write. It probably wouldn't get picked up in spell check because the words that I've found actually were spelt right. They were just out of context. So there was once I was writing for a website for a camper van company, and I was writing about driving the camper van up the east coast of Scotland and looking out over the sparkling water and how beautiful it was and the scenery and all of this. And when the guy that reads on the Microsoft app, he said looking out over the sparking water, and I'm like, my brain just automatically went, sparking? I didn't type sparking. What do you mean sparking? And so you looked at it, but I've done all these other checks and it came out absolutely perfectly fine. But when I listened to it, the sparking was like one letter, just a K. That was should have been an L, and it could have cost me. It could have cost me, but it didn't. So I love that.
And of course, you've read that several times, Rhonda, numerous times, and your brain will have read the word in front and the word behind and just kind of substituted what really it should be.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so I highly recommend using the read aloud function. Now, the guy's voice on there isn't anything that's really inspiring, and I suppose that's why you listen to it. But he saved my backside so many times that I kind of like him.
Yeah. These are great. So we'll give them a quick recap then. So tip 1 is to read over what you've written, forward and backwards.
Yep.
Tip 2, you gave us a couple of software packages there that covered punctuation, grammar, and readability.
Yep.
We'll get links to those and pop them in the comments.
Okay. Yep.
And people can have a wee look. Now, the tip 3, check the style of your writing. And that was you talking about the message or who it is that's actually reading
You want to make sure that the message is going to be for the intended audience, but you also want to make sure that it's easy to understand, that there's the sentences are easy to read. If they're too long, then it's going to be hard to read, and some people will just give up, or they will, if like, even if you're writing like for a blog or a post on Facebook or something like that, if it's not interesting and it's just sentences are going on and on and on, sometimes people just give up and go on to the next one. And you want people, well, especially for websites and things like that, you want people to stay there, and so you want to keep their attention, and attention spans are quite small. So the style of your writing, you want to make sure it's bold and clear, that it's not too wordy, that it doesn't have too many adverbs, and it's if you're using complicated words that shouldn't be in there, can you find a simpler version?
Yeah, that's really useful.
And so there was another app or software for that. That was the Hemingway one.
Oh, the Hemingway. Okay.
Yeah.
Then the last one was read aloud, and that's a function in Word.
Yes.
Okay, that's brilliant. So in terms of when you're writing for a client, then, Rhonda, do you meet with them then and you get a brief about who the client's customer potentially is, or who the writing's for, and then you have that clearly spelled out before you start to write? Is that correct?
Yes, I like to meet with them face-to-face if I can. If not, then we do things online or over a telephone. I have a series of questions that I generally ask, especially if it is for like a website. But I try to get a feel for the person and try to write in their style as well. But also knowing who their audience is very helpful. Yeah, so I do try and get as much information and get a feel from the customer before you can write for them. And on the ones that they do the writing themselves, then I just, again, need to get a bit of a feel for them and who their intended audience is, and then simplify it to meet their needs.
And you're obviously an expert at this, and you do it all the time. I personally kind of struggle with sometimes just getting the pen to the paper and sort of kind of procrastinate over the first few words even. Have you got any tips for kind of getting over that hurdle?
Sometimes it just means you just need to go out and take a walk, leave it for a while. And I find sometimes I get woken at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm having a really difficult time with some particular writing, and I've tried everything. I tried looking at other, like maybe a different website or something to see, of the same type of company, to see if there's something that will spur information there. Other times it's just, you just have to leave it. You just put it down, leave it. And then 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes I get woke up with these sentences just start running through my head. And if I don't get up and go and write those down on a piece of paper, I'll lose it, because so I get up, come into my office, I write it all down, and then I just go back to bed. And when I get up in the morning, then I look at it and then I can jig it around. But there have been times where I've said, I just can't be bothered getting up, and I've lost it. And it's like, so you learn to do that. But getting up, walk, changing the environment is the best thing to do.
I've heard a lot of creative people saying that, if they've got an idea, they have to get it down right away. Otherwise, it's just lost.
It's
hope it comes back, but it just might not be the right combination.
No.
Oh, that's been absolutely fantastic, Rhonda. Thank you very much. That's been really good and really helpful for a lot of people, I hope. Certainly been helpful for me. If you want to get in touch with you, Rhonda, your Facebook page is at RLM Copywriting.
Yes.
If everyone could go along and give Rhonda's page a like, just to thank her for the time that she's given us today, and all those tips. That's really worthwhile information. So it's at RLM Copywriting, and we'll pop a note of that in the comments below the video. And Rhonda, you've also got a little freebie on offer, haven't you, for anyone who one of the people who like your page, if they're wanting some help with something.
Yes, I will proofread up in any type of document up to 1,000 words for free.
That's really generous. That's great. Okay, so get liking people, and have they just to submit the documents to you then, Rhonda, and then you'll select one, or how would you like that to work?
Are we just going to pick somebody from random? Whoever likes this, yeah. So basically, we'll just pick somebody from random, and just let them send me anything that they would like proofread up to 1,000 words. So it could be a document, it could be an advertisement for that they're going to put up somewhere. Because the worst thing is when you send something off to either get printed or to get published online and it's got a typo in it, like a K instead of an L and sparkling.
Can't not see it once it's up there in print.
I know, and that's the worst thing. I mean, I think we've all done that at one point or another. You send off a leaflet, think it's all perfect, and then you get it back and that typo just glares at you. So having a proofreader look at those types of things can save you time and money. So yeah, it can be up to 1,000 words, and just send it over, and I'll give it a good eye over.
Okay, maybe I'll win. I wouldn't be allowed. Thank you so much, Rhonda. We'll see everybody tomorrow for another lockdown lesson. Thanks for your time. Have a great day.
You.
Thanks, Rhonda. Bye.